Lisa Patt-McDaniel, LISAPATT-MCDANIEL, Director of the Ohio Department of Development.
Looking back at this contract, it's Perigo, right?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I said it right because I heard a couple pronunciations over the
Perigo.
weekend. Do we know for sure only the two countries, El Salvador, Dominican Republic?
Actually, I'm not qualified to say that. I've only had a conversation about Canada and El Salvador, so I don't know where they have other call centers.
So Canada was another one? Okay. And do you know how many people were working at those call centers?
No.
No? Do you know why it was rated so high? Why Perigo's bid was so high compared to the other bids?
I believe that it was based on cost and their ability to handle the amount of rebates that we would be getting here in the state.
Looking backwards, what's your assessment of what happened?
Well, of course, we're very disappointed as well to find out that they had a call center and that it was offshore, and certainly disappointed to find that out on the day that we kicked off. And so going into the future, right now actually we are working on language that we will be including in all of our contracts as well as our RFPs to indicate that companies need to identify for us if they have any offshore operations and if there was an intent for those offshore operations to play some part in the contract so we can evaluate that and choose not to do it.
Do you see this as a small mistake, a significant blunder, or something else?
We were very disappointed to find out that the contract included an offshore call center. Certainly, we did not want to have an offshore call center, and we intend not to have one in the future.
Perigo's proposal has some terminology that I thought was interesting, especially in retrospect. We offer a no surprises approach for your budget, and we believe in complete transparency. Do you feel that Perigo was forthcoming in their proposal?
Since we didn't know that they had an offshore call center or that all of their call centers essentially were not in the United States, I would say that it wasn't completely transparent. But now that we know that, again, we are going to make sure that that doesn't happen in future RFPs or in future contracts.
We spoke to the CEO of one of the Ohio companies that bid on this project. He said Perigo was dishonest, and he said the state got suckered. Do you agree, or do you disagree?
I would say that they didn't disclose that they had a call center offshore. And again, when we found that out, we demanded that they try to bring it onshore. We didn't ask the question, and we should have asked the question.
How is that possible that happened? Because in most of these contracts, there's so many details in these. You would think that somebody would be looking at where these jobs are going. How is it possible that nobody knew that answer?
We didn't find out that they had an offshore call center until the day that the program kicked off. And when we did, I immediately contacted the company, wrote them a letter to demand, why is it that we're just finding that out today?
To my knowledge, they wrote you back saying or actually this was conveyed through your office. It wasn't in the letter. They don't have an onshore call center?
That's correct. At the point that I just talked with them, they did not have an onshore call center here in the United States.
So it's not as though they presented an option between the United States and offshore, and they simply went with a cheaper option offshore. They didn't have a United States option.
That's correct.
How is it that a contract can go out and that not be known?
Again, we didn't find out that they had an offshore call center until the day that the program kicked off. At that point, that's when we found out and we took action.
And my question would be, why not? Why didn't you find it out until the day that the program kicked out?
We should have asked that question. I'm very disappointed. Now we certainly have learned our lesson. You're right. But we are going to make sure that doesn't happen again by making sure those questions are in the RFP so that it has to be answered. And then there'll be contract information, or there'll be contract language in future contracts to make sure that we don't do this again.
And I don't know your process, so that's why I'm asking you this. I don't know if that is a standard question that's normally asked, or if it's not. Would you say is that question normally asked?
That question will be asked in the future on all RFPs. So it was not asked, but it will be asked in all future contracts. Again, it was a mistake. We should have asked, but we did not.
It wasn't asked in this case. Is it asked in other contract processes, or is it never asked?
Going forward, we're going to make sure that it's asked in every RFP that we have so that we can evaluate those RFPs based on all the information.
Do you know of any other companies that have done this? Won a state contract and sent jobs to a different location outside the United States?
I haven't looked at any of that lately. I don't know of all the state contracts that the state has, whether that's the case or not.
That's not a no, it's just you don't know.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I can tell you that here in Department of Development, we will be asking that question on every future RFP.
Looking at the controlling board meeting minutes from March, there seemed to be an implication that that information was at least checked out when Representative, I want to make sure I have this right, Senator Goodman questioned the selection of Perigo. Ed Jurse said they came in ninth. They scored the lowest of bidders. Competitive bid process. Move on. Find where it was asked. Here, Representative Lucky asked whether the company is going to subcontract any of the work out to minority firms. Nadine Howard, Department of Development, said it's not anticipated that Perigo will need to subcontract any of this work out because it will be done in-house. Mr. Jurse said the program is set to roll out on Thursday, and Perigo has the staff in-house to do the work, but they will take a look into it. It seems like, according to this, there was an effort to find that out, about who is handling these duties.
You'd have to talk to Perigo. I don't believe those are subcontracted. I don't know.
Okay. The bidding for Perigo, their bid came in at $171,000. This contract is not for $171,000. It's for $357,300. How is the contract allowed to double?
The contract is a base contract, and then there's a contingency based on work, so you'd have to read the contract to figure out how that works. So the base contract was $171,000, and then the contract allows for a contingency based on the amount of rebates that go through the system. And to be honest with you, I don't know the details of that to be able to explain it to you well.
It appeared from reading my notes that was provided on their proposal, and then some of the notes from your department, that their bidding didn't take into account all the functions that this program required. In other words, they had to add on duties to handle live agent calling.
Patrick, can we go off record, please? Turn the camera off.
We don't usually do that in the middle of an interview.
I can't answer those questions. I don't have the information.
You don't have the contract knowledge?
No.
Okay. Well, we can come back to that after this interview and then take a look at the contract and specifically what happened. But the reason I ask this is because it appears that the bid that they put in is different from the contract they received. And so my question is, were the other companies that bid on this project bidding on the same thing? Was Perigo bidding on the same thing as these other companies? Do you know about that? Can you tell us about that?
They were bidding on the RFP and then responding to the RFP.
But do you know if they responded correctly to the RFP or if they only responded to a portion of it?
I can't answer those questions. I'm not prepared to answer those questions. But Bethany can get you that information.
Do you take issue with the question?
No. I don't have the information. I want you to have accurate information.
Okay. Looking back at it, do you still think Perigo was the best choice?
I think looking back, we would ask more questions about how the contract was going to be run. And as I said, we are very disappointed in the fact that we found out once the call center was up and running that it was offshore. And we have taken the steps that we need to take to make sure that our future RFPs ask that question and that our future contracts include language that would make sure that doesn't happen.
I hear what you're saying, but my question was, do you still think Perigo was the best choice?
Since I did not do the direct reviews, I can't answer that question. I can tell you that we were very disappointed with them to find out this information after we had the contract.
Will Perigo be allowed to bid on future contracts with the state?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't believe right now that we would want to have a contract with them since we didn't get all the information. I'm not sure that we would ever be doing a project like this again.
And have they worked with the state previously? Did they have any track record with Ohio?
I don't know that information. Bethany would have to get you that.